So there we are. Thank God for everything. Another day above ground. We're doing biblical word study. We're studying the original Hebrew and Greek of the Bible, one word at a time, until we get it. And we know we're never going to get it. And like I said, I was scattered. I'm not doing basically what we did last week was talking about, we did a little bit on colors, black and white, or, and that breaks down to good and evil. And we did shining and mourning, and we talked about love and beloved in the Song of Solomon, how to differentiate between who's speaking, the male and the female, Christ and the church. And that was good. Nice little thing. And we did shining. This is the last thing I did here. I got shining. Oh, I got it here too. All right. And we'll, I want to get this Mark. I think we started on it last week. Mark 9:3, if I can get it here somewhere. I know I had it up here. Here we go. Mark 9:3. And his raiment became shining, exceeding white. Like I said, we studied white and black last week, and this kind of like popped out to me. White as snow, so as no fuller on earth can white them. And I looked up fuller, and I got a few things in manners and customs. I found some stuff on washing clothes and things like that. And I remember when I was a kid, we used to have the fuller brush man used to come to the house. He had his big valise with all this stuff in it, the soaps and sponges and all these cleaning materials and things that we call him the fuller brush man. And he would come to the house. And that word fuller here is, it's one time in the Bible, so I'll throw it up here. It's gnaphius, by derivation of gnapto. That means to tease cloth. And it's just a fuller, and it's right here. It's the one time in the Bible. That's what they call a hapex legamena. And it's Mark 9:3. And it's also, it is cross references, but there's one word I wanted to get here that I got transfixed on. It was shining here. This is also one time in the Bible. And we'll look at this now. And this is stilibo, stilbo. And it means shining or to glisten of garments. And we got onto that shining and the glistening, and there's so many verses in the Bible. You'll see it in Ezekiel and Ezra talking about the garment shining. The angels, they came down with that white raiment and all this glistening and shining and clothes and things like that. And but I want to go into this theological dictionary. 7, starting on page 665. It's one or two pages here. So if you see this TDNT, we understand that stands for Theological Dictionary of the New Testament. And it tells you to go to volume 7 and open up to page 665. And it's 1087 here. This would be if you have the 1 or 2 volume set. That would be the page number it's on. You forget about the 665, and you just go to page 1087. It took me many, many, many years to figure out what this meant. And it was Mike told us, yeah, I got that. And it's okay. So I understand now that the 1087 means that's page 1087 in that particular volume. And that if you have that, because this is like a 10 volume set, this theological dictionary. And I think it's a 1 or 2 volume set out there. And it has this, that one page would be that page. But the shining, and I thought of the movie right away, with The Shining, with what's his name. So, but this, the original use of the word with reference to shining or gleaming of oil. The young men are clothed with well-spun clothes, gleaming with oil. So there's some kind of shining thing going on there with the oil. And what's this guy, Nestor? He sits before the gates of the palace and they gleam with oil. So the term is used of men too, and Paris is described as shining with beauty and finery. and there fall to the earth from golden clouds shining drops of dew. And this is all this word stillbo. And that's it. This is in history books and things like that. But like I said, it's one time in the Bible. So what shines or gleams is here characteristic of the beautiful. And when transferred to men, we obviously have a gift of the gods. In Plato's scientific observation, the word occurs with hudato, which means waters with a kind of fire. The multiplicity and changes which occur through the union of fire and fluid. I can't picture that, but there's got to be some kind of glitter going on there. And when we read of the glitter of gold, and that's also this word, or the gleaming of oil, and the word is used for anything that shines. Okay, hence comes the impression of glistening, and I think we got glistering is in one of these verses here. Here, Luke 9:29. It talks about glistering. He says, and as he prayed, the fashion of his countenance, that's his face, the fashion of his countenance was altered, and his raiment was white, and that's leukos. We studied that last week. And glistering, another one that's one time in the Bible, and it means ex astrapto. Ex astrapto. It comes from the word ek, meaning out or of or from. You see the word exit there. And astrapto, which means to lighten or to shine, of dazzling objects. I could have put a bunch of these verses up there. And aster is also the word for star. So you see the bright, the shining, and the star. And of course, stronumi means to spread or to straw or to furnish. So that's the extrapo here. And that's the glistering, or it's in the Bible, it's glistering. We read glistening, we put an N in there. So, but what causes this is called a brilliant and shining. When the gleaming factor is missing, red arises from fire and blood. So without the gleaming in there, the arises fire and blood. When lampron is mixed, and the word lampron means brilliant, comes from the word lamp, which means light or lamp. But so when lampron is mixed, when the brilliant is mixed with red and white, what do we get? Yellow. So Plato uses the term synonymous with lampros, which means brilliant, for what shines. Beauty is apprehended by the brightest of the senses. The eye is stelibo. I didn't look this up. Oh, shining in the brightest light. So that's the brightest of the senses. The eye is said to have shining in the brightest light. The word is also used for the glittering and the shining of moving water. And you can picture that if you're on a boat, you're on the shore, and you're looking out, and the sun's shining on the water, and you see the glittering. That's what this word means here. So in the Old Testament, you'll see almost all instances in the Greek are translated into the Old Testament. They have the word for gleaming reflections of metal, bronze, gold, or the sword. And we'll come across a lot of these words here. Let me see what number this would be. Hold on, I got this here. Kind of like made, let me see, 38, 51. Here we go. This would be number 5. So let me go to number 5 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is it here. So this would be a lot of times what the word in the Old Testament, since there's one time in the New Testament, but when you throw it into the Old Testament, these are some of the verses that you come up with. And this would be 66, 68 is sahab. And it's one time in the Bible. It means fine, to gleam or to shine or to gleam. And then Ezra 8:27 Also 20 basins of gold of 1,000 drams and 2 vessels of fine copper, precious as gold. And we talked about the fine linen. That's the white linen. Twisted fine, what is it? Twisted line, fine linen. I forget how it goes. And also, I found this in the Maccabees. I know it's in the Apocrypha, but this one verse here in Maccabees is when the sun shone upon the shields of gold and brass, the hills were ablaze with them and gleamed like flaming torches. So, pick a word. I don't know which one it is because I don't have the Strong's number on the Apocrypha here. But you can see the word shown over here. We know there's a bunch of words in the Hebrew for shown. Snagah, 5051. The shields of gold and brass. They were ablaze, whatever that means, in the Hebrew. And they gleamed like flaming torches. So all of these words are good to give us a definition or a description of what this stilbo is in the Greek. And Ezekiel 21, and I threw these, like I said, into the Septuagint. And when you go back and forth between the Septuagint, the Hebrew and the Greek, the Septuagint is the Greek Old Testament. It's the Old Testament in Greek, and a lot of times they miss verses, and they translate things differently. So it's very hard to look up if you don't have the patience to look up. And I went crazy looking up a couple of these things that weren't there, but they were in different places. So I'm not going to get into that right now, but it's a lot of work involved with that. And Ezekiel 21:13, because it is a trial. And what if the sword contemn even the rod? It shall be no more, saith the Lord. And this word here, when we're talking about, trying to get the word here, this would be, so, but I was reading down here, and that's when I got into this here. Hold on, let me see. I'm reading. So, Nahum 3, I want to get this other word here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's not 5. It's a nitra. Here we go. No, that's not it either. 3851. 3851. Here we go. This would be it here. So I'm onto this one here. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7. I had the 5, 6. Sorry, 7. So it's 7 here. But these words, we'll get into this because they're all connected with this stilibo. A burnished brass. Okay, the word burnished. Let me see if I got it up here. 7074. I don't. All right, we're going to get to it. All right, burnished is the word kalal, burnished or polished. And there's 2 verses here, so we'll get into that. And they have some, the verb has a different meaning. It means to curse or swift, to be slight. And when you look it up in the TWOT, stands for Theological Word Book of the Old Testament, 2028. When you look that up, you'll see all of these things that have to do with disgrace, contemptible wordness, curse. And they got one time here, this is burnished. And you'll see this in these 2 verses that I'm going to point out right now, which would be Ezekiel 1:7. Close that. Ezekiel 1:7. And their feet were straight, and the sole of their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like the color of burnished brass. What's this sparkle here? Sparkled is nutsats. Look at that, one time in the Bible, to shine or to sparkle. To shine, sparkle, spark, blossom. 18:5, Isaiah 18:5. For the harvest, when the bud is perfect and the sour grape is ripening in the flower, he shall both cut off the sprigs with pruning hooks and take away and cut down the branches. So the word here, blossom here, and then he shall shake off his unripe grape as the vine, and shall cast off the flower as the olive. And we're going to get into that a little bit too, about talking about the dross and the chaff, and these things that are winnowed off. And Galatians 40:10, and the vine, and in the vine were three branches, and it was as though it budded, and her blossoms shot forth, and the clusters thereof brought forth ripe grapes. So it's talking about blossoming. All right. So that's sparkled. But this burnished brass, that's the one we were looking at. And then in Daniel 10:6, it talks about his body also was like a beryl, and his face as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet like in color to polished brass. And the voice of his words was like the voice of a multitude. So much stuff happening inside of here. And this is talking about, and in the 24th day, on the first day of the month, as I was by the side of the great river, which is Hiddekel, then I lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, and I'm sure that's a white thing there, whose loins were girded with fine gold of Uphaz, and of course, we just read 10:6, and his body. And I, Daniel, alone saw the vision, for the men that were with me saw not the vision, but a great quaking fell upon them, so they fled and hid themselves. So this was something that was shown to Daniel alone. And by, of course, the angel Gabriel gave Daniel all these visions here. So that's the word kalal, means burnished or polished. And like I said, when you look up the theological word book of the Old Testament, you really don't get too much of a definition here for this. It means to be light, or to slightness, or cursing. And I was looking for these two verses in here, and I really couldn't even find it in the theological word book. I will curse him, verse. The Lord comes with judgment, curse. So it's not even in the TWOT as far as that is concerned. And Ezra 8:27, and 20 basins of gold of 1,000 drams, and 2 vessels of fine copper, precious as gold. And this word here, another time, one time in the Bible, and the word is sahab. Sahab, it means fine or to gleam, yellow gleaming. It's also in Leviticus 13. It's probably talking about the hair, the yellow hair, talking about the clean and the unclean. All right. So that's that word there, 66, 68. And then you have this one here, 38:51, is lahab. It means a flame or a blade or a glittering or bright flame or blade. And there's 10 verses here talking about Judges 3:22, and the haft also went in after the blade, and talking about when what's his name, killed the what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. Ehud. That's right. And Ehud killed the what's his name? The king. So I can't think of the king's name. Eglon. Ehud killed Eglon, and he put the knife in, and the dirt came out. Flame went up to it, ascended in a flame. 13:20. For it came to pass when the flame went up toward heaven from afar, from off the altar, that the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame off the altar. And Manoah and his wife looked on it and fell on their faces to the ground. And this is the parents of Samson, Manoah and his wife. And the angel came to them and told them, you're going to have a son. He's going to be a Nazarene or a Nazarite. He can't have any wine. He's not going to shave his head. He's not going to cut his hair. So he went up in a flame. Lahab. And these are all translated with this. Well, most of them are translated with this word, stilbo. Glittering spear, a flame goeth out of his mouth. Job 41:21, his breath kindled coals, and a flame goeth out of his mouth. It's talking about one of these, probably Leviathan. His neck remaineth strength, and his sorrows turn to joy. Before the flakes of his flesh are joined together, they firm themselves, they cannot be moved. His heart is firm as a stone, his heart is pieced together. So this is probably the Leviathan he's talking about here. And that's a picture of Satan. So I'm trying to get these. I didn't look through all of these, but you get the gist of what I'm saying about the shining and the brighting and the flames. And then thou shalt be visited of the Lord of hosts with thunder, with earthquake, with great noise, with storm and tempest, and the flame of devouring fire. And that's John 29:6. And in 30:30, and the Lord shall cause his glorious voice to be heard, and shall show the lightning down of his arm, with the indignation of his anger, and with the flame of a devouring fire, with scattering and tempest and hailstones. So this is the judgment of God too. And we have this lightning. There's another word here. I'm pretty sure I have it here. The lightning down 5183. No. I have the word lightning though, but it's not that word. And in 66:15, for behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. So it's going to be very bright, very shiny. And Joel 2:5, like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains shall they leap, like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array. And we'll get into the stubble a little bit later, and the chaff and the dross and all of those good words. And in Nahum 3:3, the horseman lifteth up both the bright sword and the glittering spear. And there is a multitude of slain, and a great number of carcasses, and there is none end of their corpses. They stumble upon their corpses. And who is Nahum talking about? I think he was talking about, I forget. Nahum, Jeremiah, Daniel, Joel, who's Nahum? I'll find it some other time. But I know he had a prophecy against, I think it was Edom. Let me put it in context here. Little side trip here, just to let you know, because I was thinking, Nineveh. That's right. Okay, Nahum, the burden of Nineveh, the book of the vision of Nahum, the Elkoshite. God is jealous. The Lord revengeth, and is furious. The Lord will take vengeance on his adversaries and reserve wrath for his enemies. So he's talking about Nineveh. After Joel already went there. So this is the word here, that lahab. And we also got another word here, and this would be latash, sharper, sharp, whet, instructor. And TWOT 1110, okay, 3913. An instructor of every artificer in brass and iron, and sister of Tubal-Cain and Naamah. That's Genesis 4:22. He's talking about somebody to sharpen his snare. 1 Samuel 13:20. But all the Israelites went down to the Philistines to sharpen every man his share, and his coulter, and his axe, and his mattock. They weren't well versed in fighting. Job 16:9, he teareth me in his wrath, who hateth me. He gnasheth upon me with his teeth. Mine enemy sharpeneth his eyes upon me. And Psalm 7:12, if he turn not, he will whet his sword. He hath bent his bow and made it ready. So he's going to make it shiny. He's going to sharpen his sword. And in Psalms 52 and 2, the tongue devises mischief like a sharp razor working deceitfully. I just had to get these words out of here. And this is the barak, and it means lightning or glittering and bright. To cast forth. I love the word, these verbs mean nothing like the noun. To flash lightning, to cast forth. So this one's pretty synonymous with that. They got cast forth, lightning, barak, a gem in briars, and lightning, glittering. And this is the TWOT 287. There's a lot to read here, but we'll just go through the verses to see if we can glean anything out of that. As you can see, there's a lot to read there. And there's 21 verses. We're not going to get into all of them. It just means glittering lightnings, thick cloud. If I wet my glittering sword, and he sent out arrows and scattered them, lightning and discomfited them. So a lot of this times, this shining and this brightness and this glittering has to do with weapons of war and fire and violence and anger, God's thumos, his wrath, you know. It is drawn and cometh out of the body, yea, the glittering sword. I always say sword for some reason. Sword cometh out of the gold. Terrors are upon him. And in Job, can thou send lightnings that they may go and say, here we are? So I'm in charge of the lightning. So I sent them out. And it's usually with anger, you know. In Psalms 18:14, yea, he sent out his arrows and scattered them and shot out lightnings and discomfited them. And 77:18, the voice of thy thunder was in the heaven, the lightnings lightened the world. The earth trembled and shook. Lightnings lightened. And there's the word light. This or is the word for lightened. The light shines. That's the or. His lightnings enlightened the world. The earth saw and trembled. That's the same thing. Psalms 77:18 and Psalms 97:4. Psalms 135:7. He caused the vapors to ascend from the ends of the earth. He maketh lightnings for the rain. He bringeth the wind out of his treasuries. Psalms 144:6. Cast forth lightnings and scatter them. Shoot out thine arrows and destroy them. So you'll see all of these verses. So most of them have to do with some kind of judgment and anger. Another one with lightnings and rain. He sent forth. Jeremiah 51, he maketh lightnings with rain. So here we go. We got that rain again with the glittering, the fire and the water. Lightnings with rain, and bringeth forth the wind out of his treasures. And Ezekiel 1, as for the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like a burning coals of fire, and like the appearance of lamps. And it went up and down among the living creatures. The fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning. A lot of good words in there. Burning, 1197. Ba'ar is to burn. And the appearance of his lamps is lapid, a lamp, a firebrand, or a torch. Lapid. So you get the idea. I'm not going to go through all of these verses, but this is one here. Consume. Ezekiel 21:28 talks about consuming. It's all violence, but this 10:6, Daniel, his body also is like the beryl, and his face as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet like the color of polished brass, and the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude. So we read this when we were reading this one word here, this polished brass, this kalal. So it's twice. He's got this appearance of shining and brightness. Right. And these chariots in Nahum 2, the chariots shall rage in the streets. They shall jostle one against another. In the broad ways, they shall seem like torches. They shall run like lightnings. So that's when the torches, when it looks like lightning, when on the skites, the sides of the chariots, when the wheels turn and it's glittering in the sun, and it'll look like lightning strikes, and you'll need your sunglasses. The horseman lifteth up both the bright sword and the glittering spear. So the bright sword, that's the lahab, and the glittering spear, that's the barak. And the multitude of the slain and a great number of carcasses, and there is none end of the corpses. They stumble upon their corpses. So we read that already. And Habakkuk 3:11, the sun and the moon stood still in their habitation. At the light of thine arrows they went, and the shining of thy glittering spear. So you got the or in here, you got the light of the arrows, and you got the shining. It's another word we got to look up, shining. There's a lot of words here for this one. This is, it's like 19 verses here for this shining. So we'll just throw that up there. I probably got it on another page because it is a big word for brightness and shining. It's we'll look at it in a second. The shining of the glittering spear. All right. And then Zechariah 9, and the Lord shall be seen over them. His arrow shall go forth as the lightning, and the Lord God shall blow the trumpet and shall go with whirlwinds of the south. And this word here, I'm pretty sure I got it somewhere else, but yeah, well, we'll look at it here. Okay, so this is the Nogah, means brightness. All right, see what these verses here, and that's lighten my darkness. These are good. I didn't go through all of these, but I should have. TWOT 1290. I put it up there anyway. You know what? I'll look at it here because it's a lot. Yeah. TWOT 1290. Shine, brightness, brightness. Our Isaiah 59:9. Verb refers to a steady light given off by a lamp. Psalms 18:28 talks about the moon. Isaiah 13:10 talks about the spark. Job 18:5 and the light shining in darkness. Isaiah 9:2. For synonyms, see ahal. Ahal. When we looked at a bunch of these probably already. Ahal, halal, zaha, karan, and especially Yapa and Zara. So we haven't looked at them, but there's a bunch of them there. So God's judgment is in Joel 2:10. The earth shall quake before them, the heavens shall tremble, the sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their noha. They're bright, they're shining. And we know this is talking about no truth on the earth. And also in Isaiah 13:10, for the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light, the sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to noha, to shine. And then it talks about redemption in Joel 3:15, the sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. That's not redemption, are figured by the darkening of celestial bodies. Joel 2:31 and Acts 2:20. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord. And I got a bunch of verses on this too. We'll probably get into that. There's so many. We covered a lot of them last week about the moon, the sun turning to darkness and the moon to blood. If there's no sun, there's going to be no shining of the moon because the moon gets its shining from the sun. It's just reflecting the shining of the sun. And also in Acts 2:20 is just reading Joel 2:31. And this was Peter standing up there. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and notable day of the Lord. When he was up there and he says, this is that, which was spoken of by the prophet Joel. So he's quoting Joel here and talking about seeing visions and dreaming dreams and things like that. And this is that was talking about. So, and these are the last days, and that was 2,000 years ago. So, the last day, we've been in the last days for 2,000 years. God's blessing is described as a light shining on your path. In Job 22:28, thou shalt also decree a thing, and it shall be established unto thee, and the light shall shine upon thy ways. God, David's lamp, will brighten his darkness. In Psalms 18:28, for thou wilt light my candle, the Lord my God will enlighten my darkness. A good king, as an earthly representation of God, also shines brightly. In 2 Samuel 23:4, and he shall be as the light of the morning when the sun riseth, even a morning without clouds, as the tender grass springing out of the earth by clear shining after rain. 2 Samuel, talking about either Solomon, probably Solomon. Ezekiel uses the root naga to represent the glory of God, and we read these already. Ezekiel 1:4, the color of amber in the midst of a fire. Ezekiel 10:4, we didn't read. Then the glory of the Lord went up from the cherub and stood over the threshold of the house, and the house was filled with the cloud, and the court was full of the Nogah, the brightness of the Lord's glory. Right. Okay. And for Isaiah, the regenerate who are in the darkness of temporal sufferings. Who is among you that feareth the Lord, that obeyeth the voice of his servant, that walketh in darkness and hath no light? Let him trust in the name of the Lord and stay upon his God. And will be visited by a king who will be the source of the true eternal light. And this is Isaiah 9:2. The people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. And this is a prophecy about Jesus. And they that dwell in the land of the shadow of death, upon them hath light shined, up there in northern Israel. All right. Malachi 3:2, we're going to get into that. And also John 1. I don't know if it's John. Yeah. All right. That was the true light, which lighteth every man that cometh into the world. Let me put this up here. I want to get these words here. Let me get this out of here. I want to get these Strong's numbers here. All right, that was the true light. The true light. Oh, yeah. Okay, this is the phos, P-H-O-S. So when you got or, O-W-R in the Old Testament, you got phos, or you got phosphorus, phos, shining in the New Testament, which lighteth, photizo, comes from that. This is the verb, and it comes from the noun. He lighteth every man that cometh into the world. And then John 8:12, then spake Jesus again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. I'm the phos of the world. Well, you could say the Nogah too. I bet if we took 54, 57 and threw it into the Old Testament, we'd get a lot of these verses. Greek Old Testament, G 54, 57. 54, 57. Genesis 1:3. KJV plus. And God said, let there be light. So the word here is or, and the word here is phos. So you got that. So when you put phos and you throw it into the Old Testament, you get or, light. So I can guarantee you almost all of these words are going to be light or. Let's go down and look at 1 Samuel 25:6. Yeah, that's or. Down here you got light. Okay. All right. And let me go to, let's look at Job 28:11. Job 28:11. He bindeth the floods from overflowing, the thing that is hid, bringeth forth to light. There you go. So this is how we learn the Hebrew and the Greek. We look at the Septuagint. This is the Septuagint, which is the Greek Old Testament. And you want to find these words. You got bathe, it's bathos, that's deep things, right? Bathe, day, and then you got this one is potamos, a stream of running water. So, and then it goes to overflowing, and you look up these words in the Hebrew, and you find out what the synonymous words are from the Hebrew and the Greek. And then you got this anakalustes. This would be anakalupto, to unveil. All right, and the thing that is hid. So this is anakalupto. That's how they translated. And the thing that is hid. The thing that is hid in the Hebrew is talamuma, the thing that is hid, a secret. And over here, it's the word anakalupto. And we know a kalupsis is something that's hid. Anakalupto comes from ana and kalupto, which means to cover or to hide. And we know the apocalypse, apocalypto, is the revealed, and that's the revelation. When you hear people talking about apocalypse, they think they're talking about something mysterious and evil and spooky, but it's not. It's just the revealing, the revelation of Jesus Christ. It's what it is. So yeah, we could have fun, looking through all of these. Job 29, 24, and I laughed on them, and they believed it not, and the light of my countenance they cast not down. So all of these verses here, pretty much Ecclesiastes 11:7. Truly the light is sweet. Yeah. Okay. So kai and glucose, that's sweet or fresh, to light. And agathon is good. And this is a heat, a to, or the, or they, you could pick anything. Ophthalmos, that has something to do with the eyes. Ophthalmos is the eye, literally. Okay, so you got ophthalmos. To is another, what do they call those things? Prepositions, not a preposition. It's an article, or something like that. And then you got blepian. That's also means something to see. Blepo means to see, with or soon. Ton helion. That's a ray or the sun, the helios. So, and you got Ecclesiastes 11:7. Let's put it over here. Truly, the light is sweet and pleasant, thing for the eyes to behold the sun. And this is the translation simply of that Hebrew into the Greek. And they say it's one of the best translations ever made. I have some trouble with some of the way they translated it, but who am I, and then that was John 8:12. Luke 1:78. This is the angel telling what's going to happen. He says, through the tender mercy of our God, whereby the day spring from on high has visited us, to give light to them that sit in darkness and in the shadow of death, to guide our feet into the way of peace. So these guys quote the Old Testament all the time. To give light, epiphano. Let's look at that. Epiphano. Epi, we know, is upon or on, like the epidermis is on the skin. And phano, which means to appear or to shine. And when you have an epiphany, it's something that it appears and it gives light to show upon. So that's an epiphany, epiphano. And we can go through a lot of those words too, but this is good. I just wanted to look at that quick. And then the nations will flock to him as he sits enthroned in the spiritual eternal Jerusalem in the church. Or this guy's talking about a millennium, and he has no idea what he's talking about. Okay, so Isaiah 60:3, and the Gentiles shall come to the light, and kings to the brightness of thy rising. So they're going to come to the or, the light, or you could say phos in the New Testament, and the kings to the brightness, the Nogah of the rising. Zerak, rising. Hebrews 12:22, but you are come unto Mount Zion, and unto the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, and to an innumerable company of angels. And I'm looking for the word in there. I don't see one. They might have a misprint here. So Revelation 21:23, and the city hath no need of the sun, neither of the moon to shine in it, for the glory of the Lord did lighten it, and the Lamb is the light thereof. I'm the light of the world. So we don't need any more light. And 20, let me look at these words. And the city hath no need of the sun, that's the Helios, neither the moon to shine, Phano, up here, shine, and for the glory, the doxa of God will lighten, photizo, and that comes from the phos, photizo, that's a verb, photizo, and the lamp, and the lamb is the light, the luknos, the candle, the lamp of that. And we got this word white, I think. Yeah, we studied this last week. The lukos is white, light, bright, brilliant. So these are all good words. I love this stuff, man. And they're, but this is going to bother me now. This Hebrews 12:22. I guess they just put in there for descriptive purposes, but there's no word in there that has anything to do with light. Let me see if it's another verse around it. Exceedingly fear and quake. The mountain and stones. Just talking about they're on the mountain and nobody's allowed to touch the mountain or come up. But I'm looking for anything that has to do with bright or light here. And I don't see it, but I think it's just a descriptive verse that really doesn't have a synonymous word in it. All right. So God pledges himself to make the righteous of the elect go forth as brightness. For Zion's sake will I not hold my peace, and for Jerusalem's sake I will not rest until the righteousness thereof go forth as brightness, and the salvation thereof as a lamp that burneth. So you got this brightness is the Nogah, and the lamp is the lapid, the lamp, the firebrand. I don't know if we look at these here. Let me look at that real quick here, see what we got. Lamp. And the burning lamp that passed between the pieces, that's the berith there, the covenant. And the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings. Okay. So that's Exodus 20:18. That's the one that Hebrews, where is it? Hebrews 12:22 is talking about. Hebrews 12:22. But you are come unto Mount Zion and unto the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, and to an innumerable company of angels. And all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off. So there's the word lamppost there. Is it lapid, firebrand? I don't want to go. This is what I do. I just sit here and zip through the Bible, looking at theological word books and theological dictionaries and things like that. So the flaming torch, like a pillar of fire, the lamp in the tabernacle, and the glory of God signified the holy, awesome presence of the Lord moving among his people. Thus God moved as a flaming torch between the divided pieces to confirm the covenant with Abraham. That's the Genesis 15. And the appearance in flashes of lightning on Sinai, and Ezekiel 1:13, as for the likeness of the living creatures, Their appearance was like burning coals of fire and like the appearance of lamps. It went up and down among the living creatures, and the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning. So that's all good, bright light stuff. When Zion is finally delivered, her salvation shall be like a burning lamp. 62:1. We just read that, I believe. For Zion's sake will I not hold my peace, and for Jerusalem's sake I will not rest, until the righteousness thereof go forth as brightness, and the salvation thereof as a lamp that burneth, and her governors like a torch of fire, in Zechariah 12:6. And in that day will I make the governors of Judah like an hearth of fire among the wood, and like the torch of fire in a sheaf, and they shall devour all the people round about, on the right hand and on the left. And Jerusalem shall be inhabited again in her own place, even in Jerusalem, like a big shining light. So it's all good stuff. All right. Brightness, shining, the same, except for Habakkuk 3:11, which we read. Shining is a glittering spear. So you got a bunch of words in here we looked at already. Habitation, the light, the or went down, and the shining, the naga, the glittering spear, the lightning spear. All right. It's like lightning. When you see that glittering lightning, that's about that. The chariots of fire. And that's the 5051. Let me keep this page here for my numbering process here. There it is. Okay. I knew I had it there. So that was, and then this other word that is synonymous with that, and you'll see a lot of inferences to the dreams and the visions that were shown to Ezekiel. It's the word kashmal. Kashmal, it means amber, a shining substance, amber, or electrum, or bronze. TBOT 770, used only once in the Nifil. So, and you got three verses here, and we probably read these already. The color of amber in the midst of the fire, and that's what happens when the chariots go around. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud, and a fire enfolding itself. A fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it. That's the Noga. And in the midst of it, there was the color. That's the ayin. Ayin. The eye of amber in the midst of the fire. And I saw the color of amber as the appearance of fire round about within it, from the appearance of his loins even upward, even from the appearance of his loins even downward. I saw as it was the appearance of fire, and it had brightness, Noga, round about. And Ezekiel 8:2, then I beheld, and lo, a likeness as the appearance of fire, from the appearance of his loins even downward fire, and from the loins even upward as the appearance of brightness, the color of amber. So we see all these visions and all these things, and they have bright lights. And I was reading from the Slibo. Yeah, we went through a lot of these verses, so I don't even have to look at these anymore. But this Nahum, where was I here? Nahum, yeah, we saw this already. It rings a bell. Nahum 3:3, we did already. I had these written on the side, and I'm sure we covered them already. Nahum 3:3. Yes, okay. That's where we got these words from. So we did. We studied 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 words in the Old Testament on the glittering and the brightness. And then he will cause his sword to shine. Psalm 7:12, we saw that already. And the sun shone, and the golden and the bronze shield, and the mountains were agleam with them, and they gave the light of the torches fire. We read the first Maccabees 6:39. We read that. Ezekiel 21. Is it Ezekiel? Ezekiel 21. 21, 14, 15, 16, something like that. Therefore, son of man, prophesy, and smite the hands together, and let the sword be doubled the third time. the sword of the slain, it is the sword of the great men that are slain, which entereth into their privy chambers. I have set the point of the sword against all the gates, and their heart may faint, and their wounds be uplifted. It is made bright, it is wrapped up for the slaughter. Yeah, this is one I had trouble translating back into the Septuagint. Go the one way or the other, either to the right hand. And this is Ezekiel 21:14. What I did to Daniel 10:6 already. Ezekiel 21, 14, 15. Some of these didn't translate well from the 13, 14, 15, 16. The Old Testament. Excuse me. 14, 15, 16. All right. 14. I'm looking for the word here. Anna, prophetess, curious. This here, this Pompeia. Yeah, dagger. Yeah, dagger, and oxygen. That's what that means. And which is wrath, 2:14. And when you'll see the translation here, 14, dagger, dog. The third time, the sword of the slain, and it is the sword of the great men that are slain, which entereth into their privy chambers. 14. And there's no Strong's number, so there's Pompeii, Exunon. I looked it up as dagger, oxygen, I think that means. And thumo. We know what thumos is, wrath. Good. So I went for a while trying to translate some of this stuff. That's how we learn, man. Let me see. Be sharp and sword that thou may glitter. Okay. Something refers to the gold of an idol, which has to be polished to shine. The term can be an embellishment, as may be seen in Ezra 40:3 or Ezekiel 4:3. I think Ezekiel. It's got to be Ezekiel 40:3. All right. He brought me thither, and behold, there was a man whose appearance was like the appearance of brass, and a line of flax in his hand, and a measuring reed in his hand, and he stood in the gate. So 40:3. So like a vision of copper polished, as the appearance of brass. The appearance is like the brass appearance of Nekasheth, copper. So that's what they had in the New Testament. They have it stilbontos. Let me show you that stilbontos, the Greek Old Testament, 40:3. But there's no Strong's number. But they find it for you. Here we go. Stilbontos. That's the shining there. Stilbontos, as the appearance of brass. Stilbontos. So, all right, I'm sorry. I jump around a lot, but sometimes things, I say, that doesn't mean that. And then I look it up in the Greek, and there it is, Stilbontos. So, but they won't have a Strong's number, so it's hard to look it up if you don't have a Strong's number. Stilbontos, like a copper hexapod, and that's Daniel 10:6. So, like we said, the word in the New Testament is this Mark 9:3. Real simple. One time, this word is one time in the Bible in the New Testament, and we just took it all over the Old Testament. Whew. And his raiment became shining, exceeding white as snow, so as no fuller on earth can white them. And there's a lot on this. The word is used of the glistening of Jesus's raiment at the Transfiguration, and it is worth noting that the parallel account in Matthew 17 and 2, Matthew, it's not even here, Matthew 17 and 2. I had these up here. Let me see something here. Hold on a second. Let me get out of here. Matthew 17 and 2. Yeah, we looked at these. Matthew 17 and 2. I must have took it out already. We're looking at that now. Okay, here we go. Matthew 17 and 2. And he was transfigured before them, and his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as light. And the shining, that's the one time stilbo. So it's not even in here. It's not even in Matthew 17 and 2. He was transfigured before them, metamorpho, transfigured, transform, before them, and his face did what? Did shine, lampo, give light, shine, as the sun, and his raiment was white, lukos, as the light, the phos. So it's not even, doesn't even have these words. It's got the white in here, and it also has snow. I did a study on snow 3 times in the Bible. That no fuller, I did a study on fuller. Maybe we'll read something on that from the Manners and Customs book. And white, lucano, white. Okay, and then in Luke 29 and 9, and as he prayed, the fashion of his countenance was altered, and his raiment was white, and there's that word glistering, exastrapo. So you got these 3 verses that have one word in them, white and glistening. And Mark Luca explanation of stilbonta, as it strengthens the explanation by the relative clause, of which there are various readings in the manuscripts. And we just read the various readings in the manuscripts, and there's all the different synonymous words, and none of them are the same word. The shining white garments are a characteristic of Epiphany stories. And we know what Epiphano is. White is the color of light and life of the priest, the victor, and heaven. But only Mark has the uncommon word, stilbo. He seems to have interwoven it into his original. The word was not an embellishment, as in the Septuagint. And we went through the Septuagint, all of those verses in the Septuagint that have to do with this word. It is used to denote that which glistens. And then in Luke 29, 9:29, the white glistering for the shining of Jesus's garment. This word is used to describe the miraculous in the Septuagint. And we read that Ezekiel 1:4 and Daniel 10:6. We read those 2 verses. Ezekiel, yeah, Ezekiel. Is it Ezra or Ezekiel? Let me see. Ezra. I'm pretty sure it's Ezekiel. I know it was 4:1. What's 4:1? 4:1 rings a bell. And whoever remained in the place of gold, no. Ezekiel 1:4. Yeah. And I looked, and behold, the whirlwind came out of the north. Right. Okay. And 10:6. Daniel 10:6. We read that already. So these are all synonymous. And then in this Matthew 28:3, his countenance was like lightning, and his raiment white as snow. Lightning. I'm going to put these up here. Lightning. 796. All right. For as the lightning come out of the east and shineth out of the west, so shall the coming, the parousia. Let me look that up. So shall the coming. That's the parousia. That's when he's coming back. The second advent, I guess you would call it. The future visible return from heaven of Jesus to raise the dead and hold the last judgment and set up formally and gloriously the kingdom of God. So that's the parousia. That's his coming, his presence. And everybody's going to see him all at once. It's not going to be a secret, him coming. It's going to be a loud shout. We know that. A shout. And his countenance was like lightning, and his raiment was white as snow. And he said, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. So he threw him down. Yeah. And then 11:36, Luke, if thy whole body therefore be full of light and have no part dark, the whole shall be full of light. And when the bright shining, as when the bright shining of a candle doth give thee light. Bright shining. Oh, it's one word, bright shining. Of the candle, the luknos, does give thee light. So we're getting into some light, bright, white stuff here this weekend. Got away from that black mourning, sackcloth, and depressing stuff. For as the lightning that lighteneth that one part of the heaven shines, so that's his parousia. Okay, Revelation 4:5. And out of the throne proceedeth lightnings and thunderings and voices, and there were 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of God. 8:5. And the angel took the censer and filled it with fire of the altar and cast it to the earth, and there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. Talking about the seals and the other thing, the seals and the trumpets and the vials. And the temple of God was opened, and there was seen in the temple the ark of his testament. And there were lightnings and voices and thunderings and an earthquake and great hail. So there's judgment there, right? And there were voices and thunderings and lightnings, and there was a great earthquake, such as not since men were upon the earth. So mighty an earthquake and so great. Whew, I'm not looking forward to that, but it's going to happen. 16:18, Revelation 16:18. Scary stuff, man. Bright white stuff. I don't know what I have here, but it's always something about I beheld to the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow. 23:50. Oh, this is the Aramaic. White as snow. Kavar means to wax pale. One time in the Bible, one time in the Aramaic, and one time in the Hebrew. 6:30. White. To grow white, pale, white stuff, white stuff. White bread, cake. Wax pale. White stuff. Mordecai went from the presence of the king. Apparel white, okay. White, green, blue. A lot of colors when you read Esther. You see all the beautiful colors in the Ahasuerus had. Moreover, they that work in the fine flax, they were weaving around white prey 40:16. And the chief baker saw the interpretation was good. And he said unto Joseph, I was also in a dream. And behold, I had 3 white baskets on my head. That wasn't good for him, right? So the butler was good, the baker was bad. Whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool. And his throne was like a fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. Whew. And then Ecclesiastes 9:8, let thy garments be always white, and let thy head lack no ointment. So you're going to have the truth and the oil. And that there, I don't know where I got these 2 verses from, but they're up there. So I just read them. And there was something else I wanted to get to here. The raiment, we just got that 9:3. 9:3. I think I went through a lot of these here. Yeah, okay. Yeah, these verses having to do with the shining garments. Um, let me just look at these real quick. There's about 12 or 13 of them here. That's white as snow. Okay, that's the one there. And his countenance was as lightning, the raiment white as snow. Okay. Acts 10:30, and Cornelius went to meet with Peter, and he said, 4 days ago I was fasting until this hour, and at the ninth hour I prayed in my house. And what's the ninth hour? 6 and 9 is 15, so that would be 3 o'clock. At the ninth hour, 3 o'clock, I prayed in my house, and behold, a man stood before me in bright clothing. It's always some kind of bright clothing. These guys don't come to you looking like Snidely Whiplash, with the black hat, and they come shining bright. When the Almighty scattered kings, what's that one before that? Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow. And this took me off onto something else. I might read something about the washing and the nitra and the chemicals that they use to clean and make and beaten. How you beat things? They used to beat things on the rocks, and that's how we become. We got to get beaten to become clean. When the Almighty scattered kings in it, it was white as the snow of Salmon. Did a little study on snow. Isaiah 1:18, come now and let us reason together, say the Lord. Though your sins be scarlet, that's red, they shall be white as snow. And we talk about the red and the white together, all of that. And that has to do with the blood corpuscles and all of that stuff. And the red makes them white. And it has to do with being healthy. When your body takes care of itself. They shall be white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be wool or white. And Revelation 7:9, and I beheld and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. And how were they? They made white. Look at 7:14. And he said, who are these? He says, I don't know, you know. He says, these are they which came out of great tribulation and have washed their robes. How? They made them white in the blood of the Lamb. So the red makes it white. That you may eat the flesh of kings, the flesh of captains, the flesh of the mighty men, the flesh of horses, and of them that sit on them. And that has nothing to do with what we're studying, but that's a good one. Refine his fire, and Malachi. I tore these two verses up with, let me just read them quick. He says, but who may abide the day of his coming, and who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire. So there you go with the trying, the testing, and we got into the dross. I'm going to get into that, maybe not tonight. And like a fuller's soap. So these are very good verses. Malachi 3:2 and 3:3. And he shall sit as a refining and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi and purge them as gold and silver. And this is the adokimas and all of that, the reprobate silver, and things got to be burnt off. And it also goes with the chaff and all of that, the winnowing and purging, throwing the chaff into the air, and it gets burnt in the fire. So to purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto the Lord an offering of righteousness. And we got these brightness. I saw that already. Oh, yeah, we looked at that. Yeah, okay. We looked at this. But there's this. Oh, there's the nitra. We could probably get into this next week. The washing. So a couple of words. I just wanted to make note of these here. The nitra. Okay, look at this. You can look up all of this stuff on the nitra. Also used as like vinegar. Vinegar cleans a lot of good things. Vinegar is very good. Nitro, as used in the King James Version, does not correspond to the present use of that term. Nitro or niter is now applied to sodium or potassium nitrate. We'll get into this. There's a lot of good stuff on it. And Easton's got some stuff on it. Fawcett's got some stuff on it. And the Fuller Brush Man is here. And these are all the times it's mentioned in the Bible. So you got these two verses here. All right. And then the washing, kabas, yeah, wash, the Fuller. And there's about 40 some odd verses on that one. And this raiment here, we looked up this already, the Ganufos, was it? Ganaphius, the Fuller, with two T's with the cloth, and that's the Mark 9:3. So we're getting into that not tonight, but these verses here, and that's the dross and the stubble. Okay, we'll get into that, and the chaff, we'll get into that too. Dross 5509, the stubble 7179, and the chaff 2842. This is in the Old Testament. And then the all right, here's the ones with the Malachi 3:2. I got to. We can do this. We can do this. It might be a lot to get into right now. It would be. Let me see what I got here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I closed that out already. This would be Malachi 3:2. All right. So, and we're going to get into some of the, yeah, I can't do this all right now. This is a lot to get into because it talks about refining fire in the furnace, smelting pot, the fuller's soap, to try, to prove, to examine, and that's going to be a lot to get into. So we'll save this for another day. But it's cross references on Malachi 3:2 and Malachi 3:3, those two verses that we just read, and there's a lot of good stuff connected with them. And we're going to get into the words of bring the third part through the fire, and we'll refine. So here's one of the words we're going to look at: saraf. Try, founded, goldsmith, refine, smelt, fine, test, TWOT, 1972, and there's a lot of stuff on that. We'll read through that maybe, or I'll get some stuff in that. And then the other word, a synonymous word with this would be, what was that, 6884. And you got the other one is 0974, right? Verify, we'll refine that. Them as silver is refined, and we'll try. Yeah, try. 974 is another word we're going to look at. Bakan, try, prove, examine, try. So this is all good stuff. And this is to TWOT 230. There's a lot there too. We can't get, yeah, like we said, we can't get through all this tonight. To examine, to try, to prove. All right. And we'll get into that. And there's another word. Try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, the Lord God. And how are we his people? We go through the fire. We get burned. The fire purifies us, but the fire burns up the vessels of wrath. So fire is good for us. We got to go through the fire. But most people don't want to go through the fire. 974. What's the other one? 4715. Let me put it up here. Unless I got it here. Prove them. And I was tried them. Yeah, that's it. So there you go. You got both of the words right there in one verse. The fining pot. Yeah, this is part of it. This is the 6884 we just looked at. TWOT 1972. This is one of the words. Mistref, the fining pot, the crucible. All right. The fining pot is for silver, and the furnace for gold. The Lord trieth the hearts, bakan. So fining pot, 4715. And there's another word, 35. Yeah, we can't get into the dross right now. This is 3564. Let me just throw it up here. We're going to be looking at these. 3564. That's the furnace. Okay. And that's It's not connected with these words, but those two words are together. This is core, and this is the furnace. And we'll look at that also. I'll keep that up there. But I want to get to these cross references for Malachi 3:2, 3:3, and Malachi 4:1. Malachi 4:1 and Malachi 4:5 says, "Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord." And we're going to look at all these verses that have to do with the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Who can abide his coming? Malachi 3:2, the refining fire. So we're going to get into all of this stuff. Let me put this on the side, 3564, I got it down there. So we'll get into that. And what else? There's the dross, the stubble, and the chaff. This is one we just looked at. And there's the words here, approved, yep, okay, I got them forward, I'm right there. All right, and the nitra, and the washing, and the fuller. I was going to read something from Manners and Customs. So one paragraph here. Let me read it real quick, and then we'll stop for the night. So let me get these verses here. See if I did this already. Yeah. All right. Let me see. Let me do this. I'm reading from Manners and Customs, the Fred White book, Manners and Customs of the Bible Lands on washing clothes. All right. So an Arab woman in washing their clothes today usually go to nearby sources of water, such as streams, pools, or watering troughs. They will dip their clothes in and out of the water, and then placing them upon flat stones, which abound in Palestine, they will beat them with the club, which is about 1.5 feet long. They carry the water in goatskins, and they have a vessel for rinsing purposes. So that this sort of process was used in the time of David is indicated by the prayer of his penitential psalm, where he says, "Wash me thoroughly in my iniquity." So he's talking about that. He's beat me. Psalms 51:2. He knew what he was talking about when he said this. He knew he would have to get beaten. Psalms 51. So I was going to save this, but we could do this quick. Psalms 51:2. He says, "Wash me thoroughly from mine iniquity. Cleanse me from my sin." Cleanse me. 28:91. Tahir, clean. We're going to look at that. It's another word. There's just so much to do. There's just so much. All right. And then he says his picture here comes from the process of washing clothes. Alexander McLaren says concerning it that, quote, the word employed is significant. Kabas, 35:26. Here we go. 35:26. Kabas, wash, fuller. He says in that it probably means washing by kneading or beating, not by simple rinsing. The psalmist is ready to submit to any painful discipline, if only he may be cleansed. Wash me, beat me, tread me down, hammer me with mallets, dash me against the stones, do anything with me, if only these foul stains are melted from the texture of my soul. And this was, he's repenting of what he did with Bathsheba. He committed adultery, got her pregnant, and then killed her husband. Whew. Come on, man. Wash me, beat me, do anything. Oh, man. The soap was used in washing. That soap was used in washing is clear from Scripture. And that soap, 1287, I looked this up, 1287, soap. There we go. Jeremiah 2:22 and Malachi 3:2. For though thou wash me with nitra and take thee much soap, yet thine iniquity is marked before me, saith the Lord. So this soap is borith. Sounds familiar, right? Borith. What we used to wash with borax. Bore, lye, potash, alkali used in smelting metal. All right. And this is lye, potash, soap, alkali used in washing. Soap. And 1252 is cleanness, pureness. That's bor. And it's 1305 is barar, which means pure, choice, chosen. I didn't even look these up, but this is good stuff here. TWOT 288, probably a lot of stuff here. TWOT 288, light potash, alkaline cleanness, alkaline field, birds fattened for stable of Solomon, Bobarim. Whew. So yeah, look, I can't read all that tonight. There's a lot of good stuff here. A lot of good stuff here. Get into one word at a time, one verse at a time. Malachi 3:2, and who may abide the day of his coming? And who shall stand when he appears? For he's like refiner's fire and fuller's soap. And so this form of soap was doubtless a vinegar, a vegetable alkali. Job says, if I wash myself with snow water and cleanse my hands with lye, and Job 9:30. Job 9:30. I was going to save this, but I'm doing it tonight anyway. Job 9:30. If I wash myself with snow water and make my hands never so clean, yet shalt thou plunge me in the ditch, and mine own clothes shall abhor me. Man, he was a depressed man. So wash me. Rakat. I got to write this one down. That's a new one for me. 7364. Oh, 7364. Oh, 7364. Wash me. TWOT 2150. Okay, we'll get into this. It's on my list now. All right, we even got some stuff in Matthew there. Wash. So this was a vegetable alkali, and there are two references in the Bible to mineral alkali, which was called nitra, and that is Proverbs 25. Let me just put the word here, 54:27. 54:27. This is that nitra word. Yeah, I got this up there already. Okay, so, and he taketh away a garment in cold weather as a vinegar upon nitra. So is he that singeth songs to a heavy heart. So this nitra, it says mitra here, but it's nitra. Nitra soda, carbonate of soda, and we use that to clean sometimes. Put some club soda on it, get the stain out. Neurohr, to loose, to remove, to start up. TWOT 1450. All right, soda. And this is TWOT 1448, spring up, and 49 is to let loose and undo. All right, one word at a time. For though thou wash me with nitra. Let's go. We'll read that again. Okay. So this was probably the natron that was used so largely in Egypt. So that was a quick study on that, washing, fuller's soap. And there's a bunch of other words too that we're going to, where's the fuller here? 3526. That's the wash. Yeah, okay. And TWOT 946. To wash. The verb comes 51 times. Let me see. Independent, to knead, to stamp, to tread down, to full, to make stuffs clean and soft by treading and kneading and beating them down in cold water. It's also used for clothing, to launder. Never of washing the body, but rehas is used of rinsing, which is denoted by shatap. And we'll have to find all of these words. In all but one case, 2 Samuel 19:24, washing is associated with ceremonial cleanness. Both the priests and the people were to be clean, in clean clothes when they appeared before God. So yeah, this is a study for another day. We're going to get into this sometime in the future, but it's all good stuff. And we love you. God, we thank you for this. I mean, we can go on forever here. And once you get started, it's just one word falls right into another. And this is your Bible. This is the word. It is one big word. And we're just defining it. And we're getting to know you. And we're getting to know ourselves and each other and how we're supposed to live. And we do this one word at a time. We love you, God. Give you all the praise and glory. In Jesus' name, amen. Once you get started with these things, oh, stop recording. Okay. Thank you, God.